This is Dead Body Society, and I got a story for you. So, on yards in prison, and when I mean yards, I'm talking about a general population yard or an affiliated yard like there were on death row. So, one of the biggest and first protocols when you enter a yard like this, that is to give your paperwork. And there is a very good reason why you're giving paperwork. The paperwork tells the people on that yard, the ones that run that yard, who you are. For example, I'm Hispanic. I was the Southern Mexican car, so I walked in, had in my paperwork. People knew who I was in 1983, and then 1988 when I got to San Quentin. They knew who I was. Nevertheless, I had my paperwork in. In the 80s, they'd have to have someone on the street run it. They go to the courthouse. They'd look to see who, if you're saying you are who you're saying you are. The reason for this is to make sure the guys in the yard are solid, meaning they're not 290s, which is a sex offender, rapist, child molester, etc. Or that you didn't snitch on somebody. All these things are important to the yard because it keeps the integrity of the yard at a certain level. Today, when you walk in, they hand you paperwork in, it's a simple process. There's several guys in the yard, they got phones. They run your case number and it gives you a summary of what you're there for. Simple. Okay. In 1980s, it was a little bit different. It took sometimes weeks, months to get that report back. In the meantime, the guy's in the yard. He's being looked at. He's in the yard. This particular situation, when I first got to death row, I went to use the phone, and one of the guys that ran the phone, an inmate that ran the phone, he immediately said, hey, we need the phone. Just get at me. I'll put you on whenever you want. And, when you get a chance, look after a motherfucker. To me, that's disrespect. He's basically trying to charge me to use the phone. He did it in a subtle way. I immediately short-stopped that stuff. Went out to the yard the next day. He's white. I'm Hispanic. But I immediately jammed him. So the people in my car asked what was going on. I just said, this guy, he's a clown, tried to, charge me for the phone. Fuck that. That stops dead right here. When the whites saw what was going on, one of the guys kind of said, hey, do we got paperwork on this guy yet? So they started running that paperwork again. In the meantime, I'm going about my business. I'm working out. It's past 10 o'clock, so all the Hispanics and whites are on the iron pile. I'm working on the guy named Sporty from Barrio Nuevo, VNE. And suddenly, during the workout, I feel that tension. And when I read a yard, I can tell what's happening, where the tension's at, who's not acting the way they should be acting, all these signs that tell me something's going on. And this was going on now. I look across a yard. No one seems out of place, but I don't know the yard very well, so I'm not intimate with people's habits. So I start scanning individuals, and sure enough, there's a guy by the drinking fountain. He's acting kind of weird. When he turns around, his true intent's on his face. And I know this sounds a little weird, but the truth is, when your senses are so heightened on these yards, you can tell, you can smell adrenaline, you can feel tension, you can actually detect fear in people. It's a very acidic smell in the air. So I watch this guy turn around and he pulls out a blade. And it is a plastic blade, piece of plastic, with all these razor blades across it. It's a wicked weapon, but it's only used, at least in the 80s, it was used for those who did not deserve the respect of making a righteous peace and stabbing the guy. That's how you stab a guy who deserves the work you put into it, because he's also a warrior. You just have a beef with him. In this case, that particular weapon was reserved for child molesters, rats, sex offenders. So he walks across the yard, and there's a table where 4 whites are playing pinochle. And I'm watching. I already told Sporty, hey, ponte verga, check out what's going on. So the guy walks across the yard. No one's noticing him. I notice him. Sporty knows what's going on because I just put him up on it. He walks to the table and suddenly he grabs, silent, the guy that I had a beef with about the phone, he grabs him by the top of the head here and pulls his head back. Once he pulls his head back, he immediately does this to grab his thing, and he puts the blade across his throat and slits his throat, and then just throws him to the side. Spory's like, oh shit. Right away, the commotion gets the gunner's attention. The gunner is 15 foot above us. He's got a Mini 14. He levels it down and sees the blood pouring from this guy's throat. Domino's walking away from the scene where he just slit this dude's throat, and Silent's struggling. There's blood pouring from his fucking throat, and the gunner starts yelling, down, everybody down. He cocks his rifle. He knows that Domino's done it because he's got blood in his hands and everything. He tells him, you down, everybody down. Silent is struggling. I mean, he's bleeding out right there. There's blood just gushing out of his throat. And the gunner tells one of the guys there, hey, help this guy. Domino stands up and says, hey, officer, I'll help this piece of shit get across the fucking yard. And everybody gets quiet because it's a white guy telling everybody, fuck this dude. No one touch him. He's mine. So Silent struggles. I mean, he's bleeding out, gets to the fence. They open the gates, and he goes through. They put him on a gurney, and the cop sticks his hand in his throat to stop the bleeding, and they rush him out. Domino, who now has stood up, and the gunner's like, you walk to the gates. He walks over to some of the guys, Tweak, and a couple of the white guys, shakes their hand. All right, brother, I'll see you guys in about 2 years. He's going to the hole. He knows the gig. He's going to go there for 2 years. You know, people are going to respect him more. He's going to come back to the yard with more respect. People are going to basically hold him at a higher level. So Silent's taken to the hospital. He doesn't die, but he's fucked up. And he never comes back out to the yard. The deal with Silent was that no one knew. And when I got in that little bit of I just jammed him and told him, hey, I'm not paying for no fucking phone, man. You know, state issue, I got that coming. The deal was that when they ran his paper again, it popped up. He was a sex offender. So as soon as they found out he was a sex offender, one of the Peckerwoods, one of the white guys, stepped up and said, I'm going to take care of it. How they took care of it? They slit his fucking throat. This is what happens in a general population yard. On death row, it was an affiliated yard. All those yards, well, not all of them, but the yards that 1 and 2 at the time were affiliated, meaning Southern Mexican, BGF, Blood, Crip. It was a yard for what's considered good motherfuckers, meaning dudes that were righteous criminals. This guy didn't belong out there, so they dispatched him. He came back from the hospital, and about 6 months later, he came back outside, but he went to a protective custody yard. That's what happens in prison. That is the initiation into the yard. Paperwork. They check it. They run you. Once you're solid, once you're considered a good dude, everything's good. But if you have something in your background, maybe not in this case, but further down the line, maybe when you were a kid, maybe in your first offense, during your history as a criminal, if you had a 290 sex offending charge, child molestation, you hurt a child, you were a snitch, and it came up, you were dispatched immediately by someone in your car. Meaning, if you're Hispanic, it's a Hispanic that does it. If you're black, it's a black that does it. These are the rules in that society, a society that I'm no longer a part of. But I can tell you exactly what happens there because I spent 40 years on a death row yard and then 2 more at Corcoran State Prison. It's the way it is. It's a different society. People say it's barbaric. You know what? I'd rather have my society clean of these guys than have them running around like Today in Society. Today in Society, you can get on a sex offender website and check your neighborhood. Do so, especially if you have children. And I guarantee you, within 800 yards of your house, there's at least 5 sex offenders, some of them child molesters. It's something to keep in mind. Check your neighborhoods. Check these sex offender registries. Find out who lives in your neighborhood. It's part of your environment. There's a reason I say be aware of your surroundings. Your life could depend on it. It could be the life of your child. Keep that in mind. Until next time, be safe, be aware of your surroundings. Your life could depend on it or that of one of your loved ones. We'll see you next time.